Sad to be missing out. What I'm hoping to do for this live stream, though, just ahead of the event, is just to check out the Tableau Viz gallery, whilst hopefully some comments come to me from different platforms. So we've got a few from LinkedIn. This is good. Okay, cool. So the comments from LinkedIn are coming through, which is great. So that's good to know. Is anyone YouTube watching? If you are watching, let me know and drop a comment. Let me know if that's working, just so that we can check that everything's working ahead of tomorrow. Patrick, nice to see you. Looking forward to going to pick up my pass at the partner night later on. So Patrick is from a technology partner of Tableau, Wisdom. I actually did a recent, let's not call it a review. I just sort of looked at the product. Wisdom is a testing tool that you can use alongside Tableau, and Patrick is from Wisdom. He looks after the product itself. So been working with Patrick a little bit on that as well. So Patrick, I hope you're going to enjoy the conference. Hope you get to meet lots of people and get stuck in. Right. I am just going to check one thing. Let's just go and check. Let's just go check a couple of things. Okay, it really is live everywhere. It's just so bizarre. Okay, this is cool. All right. Yeah, we're just going to get stuck into it. So yeah, the main aim of this is just to check out the Viz gallery. Hopefully, if you're watching, send me a comment. I'm just doing it solo for today. Tomorrow I'll be joined by Andre. Yeah, I thought this is actually quite a nice thing to do together, because the Viz gallery is one of those things where, of course, you can just go look at it yourself. But one of the things I'm hoping to do in the future is to start to do sort of workbook teardowns. And I thought this would be a nice way to sort of just softly go into that, but do it in a live stream format, see if that's something that people enjoy. And also test the live stream itself, make sure that everything actually works. I literally haven't changed the settings since this time last year, except for this time the internet connection's not going to die. I am monitoring that actively, and I've killed virtually anything else that connects to that, so that's going to be good. Now, the Viz Gallery is a really, really cool project from Tableau. Essentially, every year, just before conference, they pick out some of the best visualizations from Tableau Public. Some of them are from Viz, the sort of visualization competition that Tableau runs, that sort of headlines part of Tableau conference. And then the other set of content on there is just stuff that's been, absolutely fantastic from the year. What's different this year is obviously we haven't had as long a run up to conference itself, so we've only had 6 months essentially between the two conferences. So it's actually been maybe a little bit easier, but as ever, the community is always awesome and produces tons of content. So the best content makes it to the Viz gallery. To be honest, there's probably not enough space in the gallery for all the awesome content. So if you're not in this, don't worry. It's just one of those things where eventually, you'll get in there one time. And if you're doing good work and you're sort of spending time engaging with the community for feedback, your stuff will end up here inevitably. So just keep at it. The Viz gallery is pretty cool. It's it's like a virtual environment. I wish they had a VR headset edition of this, because it's actually perfect for it. If you could put a VR headset on and sort of navigate it with your mouse and keyboard, that would be awesome. But you can't do that. You can just use your mouse and keyboard to move around. It's a very, very simple setup. You can pretty much follow along. Just go to the Tableau website and you can get stuck in. So here we are. This is the gallery itself. You can sort of just navigate it around. I'm actually going to drive this remotely. I'm actually looking at a different screen to where the gallery actually is. So it's going to be a little bit easier to look at it. So yeah, when you arrive at the Viz gallery, you get a little welcome message from the Tableau Public team. Tableau Public is a really, I think, important part of Tableau. It's a really good test bed for content. It's a really good test bed for Tableau. I know that Tableau do use it for testing capabilities in the back end. They get to see how we use Tableau, what we're using, what features we're using in the content that we publish to Tableau Public. And that really informs the way that the product is built in the desktop product and the server product as well. Tableau Public is also running on a, let's just call it a really cracked version of Tableau Online. So it's one of the largest sort of instances of a data visualization platform anywhere in the world. I can't really think of anything that comes close to it. I've seen Tableau Public vises being used by lots of organizations around the world, right from healthcare all the way to journalism. But it's also a really good way for you to sort of sharpen your skills, learn how to use Tableau because it's entirely free. It works in the browser, or you can download the software as well. So it's a really, really nice tool to use, and you can get stuck in. So I won't go too much into Tableau Public. I should just probably make a separate video about that, and we can find out sort of how that works. So I'm actually going to do something now. Let me just come out of this. Let's just switch this over to this. Let me minimize this screen, and I will set this to my primary display. Here we go. I'll make that the large, and we'll go full screen there. There we go. So we'll use this as our browsing experience. So if we sort of just look at the gallery, you can actually just sort of browse around. And what I really like about this actually is that they've got the Las Vegas context here. So if you look through the window, you can see Mandalay Bay, which is the hotel where the conference is actually taking place. This actually took place there in 2019 as well. In other years, it's been in other locations. So just a little bit of history for you there. But yeah, here you can see the visitors. There's absolutely tons in here. There's amazing content. What I'll do initially is I'll just do a quick browse around, check that everything's here and it works and it's streaming okay. And then we'll sort of get our bearings and go take a look at some of these workbooks. So one thing I'll show you here at the top right is you've got a little map. So there's 4 rooms. We're currently in the Gallery A, the sort of entrance. And as you sort of pan around, you can see each of the visualizations, and you can see the rest of the gallery over into the distance over there. So you arrive. It probably makes sense to sort of go from the left and just work your way left. Basically, when you go to a museum, you always have to choose an approach, right? So here, just work your way around, going left, and you pretty much get to all the content. So this is room number 1. Let's take a look at room number 2, which is called Gallery B. This has got more vises, surprise, surprise. And this is specifically the Iron Viz room. So all these vises have, these 3 I think are in the Iron Viz final. And I think some of these are from the feeder competition as well. So I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll have to double check. I'll check that in a second. When you click on them, you'll get more detail about them. But these 3 are definitely the 3 candidates for Iron Viz. So we'll check these out a little bit more shortly. So this is gallery. Which gallery is this? This is Gallery B. Let's go check out Gallery. This is Gallery A, where we just came from. So we want to go through Gallery B. And then I want to turn to my right and go to Gallery C. I'm already lost. If we turn around, a few more data visualizations. I'm looking back from where I came from. What I really like about this is actually quite interesting to see what vises make this cut. What do you have to do to get a visualization into this gallery? And this is normally a good straw poll. What you tend to see is people take inspiration from these vises, and you see the styles sort of repeated throughout the year. So maps are obviously a very common occurring theme. Maps are just the kind of thing that everyone gets amazed by. So they're really, really cool to build in Tableau. Super easy. It gets easier by the day to build these visualizations in Tableau. And there's also a few sort of different styles sort of popping through. Again, we'll come back to these a little later on. Things like radar charts, radial diagrams, these sort of flow charts. I forget the exact name for these, but we'll come and have a look at these a little bit later. Then the final gallery, Gallery D, still looking out to the Las Vegas desert. We've got one viz on its own there. And then if we scroll around, we've got a few more small multiple charts there. A few vises about various topics. We'll dig into some of these a little later on. But yeah. This is pretty much it. So there's really, really good stuff in here. Really easy to browse and get involved. So if you're watching this in the live stream, you haven't had a look at this, you should just go check this out for yourself in person. Then come back and watch the replay of the live stream or something as we go through it. But that's pretty much it. So let me just check one thing. Let me bring my chat window over to this left-hand side so that I can actually see what people are saying, because various people are going to be chatting in from different places. And the other thing I want to make sure I do is make sure that I can see comments from other platforms. So yeah, okay, no, we don't have any comments from other places, so this is all good. That's fine. Let me just check a couple of things. Here we go. Here we go. What's Steve saying on Twitter? I'm going to switch to a different streaming platform on Twitter from my laptop, and video stops when I type reply. Okay, so Steve Fenn is watching on Twitter. He was watching on Twitter. He's going to switch to another platform. So hopefully you can find me somewhere. On YouTube, we have 5 people watching. You're very quiet, YouTube. I can see, Jacob, you've made a comment. What am I most excited about at TC22? That's a good question, actually. TC22 is an interesting conference because it's one of those conferences where there's a lot of things that we haven't done in a while as a community in general, and Tableau haven't had a chance to sort of showcase for a while. So when it comes to TC22, I think there's a lot of expectation. There's a lot of sort of maybe frustration that we haven't come together as a community. There's also the sort of ongoing discussion about Salesforce and Tableau. Tableau clearly becoming more of a product than a company on its own right. And then lastly, I think there's also this sort of expectation of features because we only just had a conference 6 months ago. So I'm deliberately tempering my expectations because of that sort of compressed time frame of 6 months. But I'm really hoping we start to see some really big ticket features that we've sort of been. You kind of get the sense that in 2021, Tableau were laying the groundwork for a bunch of things, right? And you tend to see that happening in a slightly reduced sort of cadence in features. We had a lot less sort of big ticket features coming through in 2021, but there's sort of lots of small steps being taken in other areas. And so what I'm hoping is we get to see all of that come together in a lot of sort of gateway features. So features that require some of these smaller parts to be there and exist. So I'm hoping for better, well, I think anything that improves the authoring experience to make it easier for authors to build visualizations is a good step. I also think anything that can help other people build visualizations without an author is also going to be a good thing. It's not a commonly spoken about part of Tableau because, in essence, who wants someone else to be building visits for them? No one. Everyone wants to be enabled to build for themselves. And I think one of the toughest things is how do you give that power to people who might have differing levels of data literacy, might have differing levels of experience in analytics. It's a really, really sort of tough challenge. On top of that, you've got to make sure they're using things like validated data sources, and there's a lot of trust and governance in those. Otherwise, people are just building, things that look great, but essentially, jargon because they've not gone through the relevant steps to make sure it's all valid. So I'm really hoping we see sort of more of that coming through to enable that sort of scale to really take place. So that's a sort of a very big expectation, a lot to ask for, but we'll probably see that in small features and small feature sets coming through. So that would be really, really cool. So someone's saying it would be cool if we can create our own Viz gallery. I completely agree, actually. I wish this Viz gallery was actually more permanent. It wasn't just something temporary. I think it would be nice to sort of see that a little bit more. So let me put this over here. I should just move my stream settings all the way over here. This is why you do a test, because it's not until you do the test you realize everything that's wrong with your live stream. So, okay, I've moved everything across. So now we can go back to the entrance. You can actually, over here on the top right hand side, you can actually just click on the gallery letter and it can take yourself back. So we're going to start over here with this one by Gurpreet. Now, Gurpreet has an awesome YouTube channel. We barely even started this and we are already getting distracted. Gurpreet runs an amazing YouTube channel. It's called Data Viz Canvas. In fact, let me do this. Data Viz Canvas. I think it's this. Visualize data in an artistic way. I'm pretty sure it's this. I could just open the YouTube one as well. That will probably load faster. Yeah, it is. Yeah, this is one. So this is Gurpreet's channel. It's really, really cool. If you haven't heard of Gurpreet and his channel, definitely go check it out. He does some amazing videos about different chart types and the kind of thing that you see being done in a somewhere in the data viz community, and you're thinking, can I do that in Tableau? You think the answer is no, and actually the answer is yes. Gurpreet's probably done a video showing you how to do it, and he's got a really good library of content going back now almost 2 years. So absolutely go check him out, give him a follow and a subscribe. But if I go back to, this is his website actually, if I go back to the viz gallery, just here, this is his visualization. So he's visualized charities. The Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission is the country's national regulator for charities. This viz is by Gurpreet Singh, and he's basically visualizing the charities and I think the donations and the income that they get in Australia. So it's a good visualization for two reasons. There's a nice sort of story to be told about where all the donations are going. It looks like the data set is really, really rich for that, and you can sort of jump in and get involved. Now, what I will say is on these sort of pop-out pages, you can interact with the visualization, but what it does is it opens up another tab. So when it throws you out to this tab, this is actually where you interact. So in the Viz gallery itself, you can look at the visualizations, but you can't really interact. When you click on them, they immediately sort of throw you over to another page. And I think that's to do with just the technicality of sort of the way the Viz gallery works. But I'm sure, with a bit of time, they could improve that. But yeah, this is the actual Viz, and you can sort of engage with it. And he's done a really nice chart type here to kind of show the flow of different donations. I'm just going to try and interact with it here and see if this interaction works. Select individual bar to drill down further. So if I do this, there you go, that works. So one of the things you have to do is read instructions. I'm really bad at this. I just take my mouse and just click everything to sort of explore what's going on. So as you click on these different bars, you can see the flowchart changes to reflect where the donations are going. And when you hover over these sort of end lines, you get a nice Vision tooltip here that pops up and shows you sort of a spread of those. So that's a really nice visualization. It's one of the examples of what I would call using hacks resourcefully, and that's not a bad thing to use hacks. I'm not saying that at all. I personally known for hating hacks. I've done a video about it, but nonetheless, sometimes you have to kind of get the chart type and story combination that you want to do. So you will see lots of what I'd consider hacks in the Viz gallery, because people are trying to do really beautiful things and they have to push the boundaries of the product using whatever tricks they can use. And so you can see that when I hover over this bar, it's actually a series of circles. And the way this works is it's essentially a calculation that takes a starting point, let's say this very top point, and then goes to the very end, and it just draws a bunch of circles between them. So if I go down here, you can see as I move my mouse, there's like a small circle that kind of moves up and down, and that's essentially how the hack works. It kind of creates this bar chart, but that's the only way you get rounded edges, essentially. You have to have these essentially data points load up. The Viz refresh there for some reason, I don't know why, but yeah. So this is a really cool Viz. I'm not going to interact with it too much, but I just thought I'd hop in and give it a look. So that's a great Viz by Gurpreet, and we'll head back to the Viz gallery and we'll go to the next one. By the way, if you have comments about these, drop them in the chat. Let me know what you think, and yeah, we'll get stuck in. So just reading my comments. Faustin, I don't know if this is Steve, Fen. Is this Steve? Is Faustin Steve? Let me know in the comments. Loved your video about Wisdom Ops. Was hoping maybe something like that would be represented at TC22 this year. That's a very good question, actually. It's kind of interesting. I did the video on Wisdom Ops, and then what I realized is that some of the features around the Workbook Optimizer are kind of in the same space, but not really. The Workbook Optimizer, I don't think that should be called the Workbook Optimizer. It should be called something else. It should be called like a workbook checklist, because that's actually what it is. Here's a checklist of things that we think are best practice. Check against them before you publish this up to Tableau Server or Tableau Online, whatever you're using. That's what it really is about. And yeah, I think there's going to be more in that space. I'd love to see an API for the Workbook Optimizer, so that I can check everything on Tableau Server in one big sort of go, and then export like a list of, okay, these are the 20 things I could address across all my workbooks to improve performance on the server, right? And then you can build training to sort of suit those needs. That I think would be a really, really cool feature. But anyway, let's get back to this. Idris Akilapa, I think that's the way to say that. Sorry if I've not said that correctly. This is a business dashboard by Idris, based in Nigeria. Creatively showcases Superstore sales. People take the mickey out of Superstore sales, but every single year people continuously produce amazing dashboards that just reimagine Superstore sales. And I think it's the equivalent of like a bake-off, where everyone gets the same ingredient, but then people come up with lots of different sort of iterations of the same thing. What I love is how resourceful people can be with the same data. And so what I really like about this is sort of the thought, the layout, and the flexibility that you get in this visualization. If I go to it, let's just go to and interact with a viz, and let's have a look at it a little bit more closely. Click the calendar for year filter and table for data. So if I do that, this is using the show and hide capability in Tableau. So when I just click on that icon, it basically shows this container, and then I can go select the year. And I think this is going to give me a table over here. Wow. Okay, so that's really cool. I think, okay, that's really nice. I really like what he's done there. It's essentially, when you click on this icon, it's essentially hiding this entire container and flipping it. And what I like about this is that okay, so I was going to say that I think the titles fade out, but I don't think they do. But if you click on them, I think it takes you to a different metric. Correct, yes. So it's always interesting that the visual cues lead you to sort of have expectations. And there, even though I didn't read this instruction here, select category to filter, it just worked, because I clicked on this, I realized that the metrics didn't change, and then I realized, wait, there's something else going on here, and it worked. So to be fair, this is how most people look at visualizations. They don't really read the instructions you send them, they just click around. So this is using a lot of good capabilities. It's using set actions, it's using the show and hide capability, and it's also using just really good layout design. Something you can really clearly see here is that he's using padding in between these layout container sections. So the way this is done, have I got my annotation tools? I haven't got my annotation tools. Let's get my annotation tools up. Let's say Presentify. So if I bring my annotation tools up here, you can tell that each one of these is essentially a layout container. And inside of that layout container, I think what has to happen, either one or two things. Let's start again. So I think what's actually going on is you've got a layout container there, and then you've got a layout container there, and then in each of those layout containers you've got a horizontal section just like that, and another horizontal section like that. And then what's happening is when you click on this table icon, it's basically switching this container out with something else. So this container, the green one that I've highlighted, is basically being switched out for something else, and it's bringing in a whole new set of charts with it, and it's hiding the other one as well. So really cool set of actions there. And yeah, if you tried to do this 3 years ago, that would have been really messy. You'd have collapsing containers instead of show and hide. So that's a really nice touch there. Nice work. Cool. Man, this is going to take a while. When you have this idea of doing something and then you realize, okay, I should have really thought this through before committing to it. But hey, we've started, so let's push through. Okay, so Olusholo Olojo, also based in Nigeria, analyzes agricultural product harvest and yield in one of the most natural resources dense regions of the world, Africa. Cool. So this is a viz about Africa. You can tell there's a little bit of Figma design going on here. These buttons, I'm assuming Figma because they exactly match the background. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to just design the background and the buttons yourself. You could do that in PowerPoint. You could do it in Figma. You could do it whatever tool you're using. But for them to match, exactly as they have done there, it's got to be done really, really well. And I also like the use of the background image here to kind of give a little bit of a story and a theme to it. Without the background image, it wouldn't look the same. I also like the use of sort of color. So the color is being used really cleverly. It's here obviously in the data viz, but the same color is being used here, and it really adds contrast to the whole visualization. So I think it's a really nice, really nice touch. So yeah, let's go interact with the viz and see if I'm missing anything. There's always more to a viz. Never judge a viz by the cover, as it were. So yeah, when you hover over the different data points, you do see a little bit more. And if I go to production, this is the one we're on. Let's go look at harvest. Yeah, the action changes the metric that you're looking at. So that's pretty nice there as well. So that's pretty cool. Let's go back. Foston is not Steve. I'm glad that's really been answered. Apologies for sort of confusing you there. You had a name similar to someone that I thought might be also watching, but no worries. 2021 F1 season. Oh my God, don't get me started about F1. As you might know, I'm a racing fan. You can't quite see it, but there's a Lewis Hamilton poster behind me. 2021 F1 season was probably one of the best seasons in a decade. I've only really been watching F1 for 8 years, but I can tell you that there's not been a season like that in a really long time. The closest season to that was probably Nico Rosberg versus Lewis Hamilton, and then again probably going even further back when you had sort of the classical rivalries with Michael Schumacher and many of his sort of not arch enemies, but many of his competitors over time. So this season was absolutely fantastic, and this viz, I think, it's one of those vizzes done at the right time in a really nice style. The problem with a lot of racing like vizzes is there's this temptation to want to make them very sports car sort of focused and fast design, whereas this one just takes a step back and really just focuses on the information rather than the theme of the sport, and it just puts those two people in focus. Has a consistent color and style, has a story that it tells with text and color. And if we scroll down, what's really interesting here is you can see the different sort of rankings that the people finished. So a really low ranking basically means you didn't finish, and a win is a dot, I believe. And the higher you finish, the higher these are. So that's why, you know, Nikita Mazepin here, who's no longer in F1, has a lot of rankings low down. But it really shows that a lot of the F1 drivers, it's really hard to be consistent. No driver here has a sort of a perfect sort of, you know, trend. I think Carlos Sainz probably was one of the most consistent people last season. He didn't finish lower than 10th by the looks of it. But Lewis had 2 DNFs or 2 really low finishes, whereas Max had 3, but then pretty much won every race, whereas Lewis won almost half as many races, but because he was consistently finishing really high up, was able to sort of really push the race right to the end. So yeah, really interesting viz. If you're into racing, this is a really sort of awesome viz to check out. I'd love to see this for every season in history, if that's possible. So Raphael, throwing the challenge to you there. So that's a pretty cool viz. I really like it. Let's just go check the viz. Let's just go interact with it very quickly, make sure I'm not missing something really special. You always need to just check the viz, because that can completely change what's going on. So select a driver to view each of their races. It's funny, the topic of gendering is a really sort of topical conversation. Formula One is a purely male dominated sport, but there is another formula called the W Series, and in fact there have been female drivers in F1. Susie Wolff, the wife of Toto Wolff, was the first female driver in F1. She was a test driver for Williams, and I believe she drove a practice session in F1. And the big challenge that, you know, that's constantly sort of portrayed there is that the speed and you know, nature and sort of physicality required to drive F1 cars means that typically, according to sports physios and scientists, women can't take parts. But I don't think that means we have to gender the sport. So it's one of those things where if you can, just get used to sort of making your language a little bit more gender neutral, so that if one day maybe the cars are made safer, the sport is sort of better designed, it's more inclusive, and people don't have to relate to a gender. Because the other thing is, you never know, one of these male drivers might not actually gender themselves either, so it's just something to be aware of. But nonetheless, really cool viz. I really like this touch, and yeah, really probably one of the cleanest designs of the whole gallery. I really like it. There's no unnecessary use of color. It's all themed on teams and the race as well. So really cool. Let's step back and go to this global warming viz. This is a really simple one. It tells a story, and it doesn't need much more than just the canvas to tell the story. The world is warming up. Here's the data. Take a look. Here's the mean over 1951 to 1980, but there's a very clear trend. What would be interesting to know is what caused this peak and then what caused this decline. Something must have happened here. I think this is the World War, I believe. I think this must be the World War and industrialization. And I think, this must be the World War. So this was World War and industrialization. And then after the World War, there must have been a lot less industrial activity. It sort of flatlined for a little bit. And then as we came out of the recovery, 10 or so years later, it's just been a sort of onward trend. There's probably a lot more to it as well. There's a few more sort of, some interesting sort of trends there, and maybe that's me generalizing the data into a trend that I want to see, but it'd be really cool to understand what's going on there. There's another viz this reminds me of, what's causing global warming. This is a let's see if I can find it. Data viz. What is? There's a really good viz, I think, by Bloomberg. What's really warming the world? That's the one. So this is a really nice viz. Again, exactly the same chart actually, and it's using the same data set, so I assume it would have the same trend, and you can actually see the same trend. So this line shows the measured or observed thing, but what this one uses is scrolly telling. So it shows different factors and how they follow the average. And as we keep going, it adds different things. So you can see if the sun has had the impact that we're looking for. We can see whether volcanoes have had an impact that we're looking for. You can add all the three things and see if any of them combined have caused the effect. And what's really nice there is that they're then aggregated to give a net setup. And there's also a margin of error because, of course, these measurements mean different things. And then land use has actually gone down. And then ozone plays pretty flat, and then aerosols comes in and that goes down. So you think, oh, okay, cool. That's having a slightly different effect. Greenhouse gases, that's gone up. And then if you combine all of those together, you then get something that very closely matches the trend that we're seeing. Now, there's a margin of error to that as well. But that's essentially a really cool data viz because it actually tells a story and it gives you a net line of all the factors used, basically natural and human factors put together, so you can sort of see that story for yourselves. And then there's a lot of theory here about what's going on, so that's really nice to see as well. Right, let's go back to this. Oh, we've got lots of things open, so let's close all this and go back. So yeah, we've done global warming. This is one by Autumn Batani, inspired by the Tableau community project Real World Fake Data, aka RWFD. This viz by Autumn Batani, based in the US, redesigns the Tableau call center accelerator pre-built dashboard that helps you quickly drive into identifying patterns, outliers, and insights. So I'm on the record for absolutely going in hard on the Tableau accelerators. A lot of them, in my opinion, were not the best practice. Tableau vizzes, but Autumn has taken it upon herself to actually do something about that, unlike myself, where I just moaned and created a video. Autumn actually sought to improve the ecosystem for everyone. So you can now see this viz by Autumn, which is actually really, really nice. It's, to me, a much, much better sort of example of what is possible. And actually go to it and just interact with it, you just see a much, much sort of better sort of outcome. So let's say we click on, I think it's sorted by answered calls. I don't think it actually filters, or maybe I'm, no, these don't interact. I was hoping that you'd click on these and it would filter that, but that wouldn't be hard to add, I don't think. Let's go to, this is the aggregator tab. Let's go to this tab here for call people. So you can see, yep, their call volume, their schedule. That's very nice. And then let's look at this. Yep, you can see the traffic by time as well. And then this also gives you the menu and information as well. So really, really nice touch. Very simple, actually. Very simple design. Really hard to do. I know, and it sounds sort of weird to say that. The simpler something looks, the harder it is to do. Always, always. And something you can do with Tableau Public is obviously go and download an image, whatever. But you can download the workbook, open it up, and have a go. Or even better, if you logged into Tableau Public, you can just edit this in the browser and have a look at how it was built. So you don't need to download anything. You can just get involved. I'm not actually signed in. I won't sign in right now, but yeah. So yeah, that's really, really cool. Okay, so we've got Work Like an Artist, this one, by, I think, Ha PL. I think this is this profile. I'm not sure if that is. I'm not convinced that is. Let's go to, let's just double check this. Sometimes profiles are, let's go to the profile. Data analyst. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to LinkedIn. Yeah. I think that's correct. Yeah. So I was wondering. I thought I'd seen this not under a different name, but under the full name. But I am wrong in that sense. So this is a really, really smart viz, because it's one of those vizzes where I think you have to download it to see what's going on. I think it uses a lot of images, which is why it's taking a little longer to load. Each of these faces is going to be an image, and the icons might also be images. So let's wait for this to load. I might refresh it one more time. Sometimes when you refresh, it kind of loads faster. Let's just wait for this to load in. Maybe I should preload all of these ahead of time. Let me just check a few things while this is loading as well. Here we go. No. Why is this viz not wanting to load? It's not ideal. All right, what we'll do is we will go back to the viz gallery. We'll come back to it. We'll leave it loading in the background. We'll come back. That's pretty much everything in room A, which is pretty good. What I'll do is I'll probably look at the IronViz entrance when we go in, the 3 IronViz finalists even. And then we'll probably have to continue this some other time, because there's just absolutely no way I'm going to make it through all of these in the time I was hoping to. I was going to spend an hour, but I think I've just gone through them in too much detail because they're just too good. So let's dive into this one. So this is by CJ Mays. CJ makes a lot of great content. If you don't follow him already, check him out. If I open up his profile, this is something you should also do. When you go to a profile and you see something good, open their profile and don't just look at the other good stuff they've done. Scroll all the way back and really understand their journey, because I think it's all too easy to look at the the first thing that someone the first amazing visit of the day that someone has done, but it's more important to understand how they got there. What have they done? What experiments have they tried in the past? What sort of stories have they tried to tell? And how has that sort of led them to where they are? So if you look at the visualizations here, CJ, I wonder if CJ has anything hidden, because right out of the gate, he's got some really, really good content. And he's also got a very definitive style. He likes a lot of dark mode content. So you can see that most of the stuff here is dark mode. And as you go throughout, he's using very advanced, I'm going to say advanced chart types. They're not out of the box. They're using some quite, not complicated, but some quite tricky calculations to create slightly different chart types, which is really, really cool. Lots of concepts being explored. For example, here you're using shapes to show body parts, which is really, really cool. And then obviously that's linking to another chord diagram that we've seen already before. And if we keep going back, there's sort of more and more experimentation. And then if you go to the viz that's actually made it through to the Iron Viz final, if I can find it, here it is, the Art of Conversation. This is using a lot of those skills. So it's using design, it's using layout. There's a lot of minimalism in here. Interestingly, it's not dark mode. So a really nice touch there. But the lessons he's probably taken from dark mode have helped here, because I think he's struck a really good balance of achieving contrast whilst not making any colors really, really strong. They're all quite muted, very complementary colors. So I really like the way that he's done that. And the layout is absolutely beautiful. The story that it's telling obviously takes a bit of time to sort of get into, but you can sort of check this out. Now, this is about a podcast, The Diary of a CEO, by Stephen Bartlett, who's based in the UK. And yeah, this is a really, really beautiful viz. I'm looking at it and just seeing each of these. So click here for key before viewing. That's a really nice touch. So the key, oh wow, this is nice. So this, how is this being done? Let's think about this. Everything here, I think, has to be either in a single image in a container that's being hidden and shown, or I think that has to be it. It has to be like a transparent image that's being overlaid onto this exactly to show you how this works. But it's a really interesting way of doing a legend without actually having a legend. A lot of legends use color to say this color means this color means that. This just actually literally shows you. He's annotated the actual chart to just show you how it works. So that's another style you can use. Mark Reed has a really good blog post about how to do this. So definitely check that out. Got some good social buttons here at the bottom as well. A bit of the chord diagram sort of technique being used here on the right. But what's nice about this is that it's also got a bar chart lined up with it. So it's not just the chord diagram. It's also got a really nice setup, and it's also using a scorecard setup here as well. So that's really cool. And each of these are actually data points you can interact with. Okay, let's go back. Let's look at the next one. Interpreting Art. This is interesting. By Will Sutton. Also UK based. Let's go interact with this. Now, this is interesting. Let's just look at this. What is art? How should we interpret art? Take the quiz. Question 1. How do you interpret art? Pick an interpretation from the options below. All uphill. Handheld tattoo machine. Walk of shame. Following breadcrumbs. Sad seed sower. To me, I thought that was all uphill. So if I click on that, let's see what it does. Oh, I think I've got to do all the questions and then it's going to give me a score. Okay, so this is interesting because it's already, this viz is making me work for the end result. It's telling a story, but it's not giving me the answer straight away. So let's have a look at this. Question 2, fight to the last, punch and drive. Oh, okay, this is what this is. Okay. Interesting. I'm going to click this one. I wonder if this fighting cars is in the wrong. Maybe it's just how I'm interpreting it. Let's go. Number 3. There's a legend there. For each image, click the text to select an answer. Ball comes, child. Ball playing triplets. Okay, so what I'm realizing is I also have not selected an option there. I think I have to select 2 because it's 1 and 2. Nope, you can only select 1. So let's just click on that then. Question 3, question 4. This Ted Bundy's badge. Okay, this is good. If I scroll down. Okay, I'm just going to select 2 more. Oh, you have to answer all the questions. Okay, I'm just going to select raindrops, raining dogs, Australian sheep love. Okay, meat sweats. Meat sweats. Badly explained climate change theory. That's actually quite a good one. I think I'll go badly explained climate change theory. I want to see more in what that is. I think this is an animal. This is a cloud and it's raining. That's what I think it is. And this looks like rubbish to me, so that's what I'll choose. Question 6, the last one. Convicted croissant escaped supermarket. Yeah, that's a croissant. That's a trolley. That must be it. Okay, submit my answers. Then you get the viz. That is super cool. Really, really cool. That is an amazing touch. So you're part of the data, and then it tells you the story of your responses. So 0 interpretations as the artist intended. Okay, so number of respondents. Right, okay. Your response, artist impression. Wow. This is pretty next level. And these chart types are really sort of advanced. You got the Sankey. I'm always sort of skeptical about the Sankey, but it's a good use of the Sankey because it guides you through the story. Very, very much like it. Wow, this is a great viz just because it doesn't... There's no complexity in this. The complexity is all in the story. It's all in the way that it's got you to do a quiz. You take the quiz. It doesn't give you the answer until you've done all the questions. You submit your answers. You kind of do the classic form, completion thing, and then here you go. You get your viz. Really, really cool. Really cool. Okay, let's look at the last one by Kimberly Scott. In this viz from the 2022 Iron Viz qualifier, finalist Kimberly Scott, based in Australia, looks at diversity in the art world by examining Australia's Archibald Prize, exhibiting artists and the gender pay gap. So we were talking about gender inclusivity a little earlier on, and here's a viz that goes into that. Okay, so this one has a story right from the get-go. I do like the little prelims that we get here. I think this is actually something that I wish more visitors did, as part of the navigation rather than just being done by Tableau. So it's a really, really nice touch. So this viz it's like its own viz type. It has a key that shows you what's going on. Has a little bit of color as well. It's very, very clear right from the get-go that there are very, very few female winners. It's probably for every 10 male winners, there's 1 female winner. Just looking at it. I can show layers. Oh, is this a map? Oh, yes. So this is this is using a mapping capability to show me this, right? So I can choose to disable different layers. Oh, that's a really nice touch. A really nice touch. So this is like a grid, and each of these is like a layered object. the issue with layers is the one at the top is what hogs the data points. So if we lock some of these, we might be able to interact with the layers below. So let's lock the year of win, and let's see if we can interact with the gender. There you go. Yeah, you can interact with the gender. So that's really cool to see. Wow. That's amazing. That's so cool. So these are actually shapes. Wow. Okay. That's very cool. And then you've got, yeah, proportion. There's a little bit of a deeper dive into the data to really sort of pick out some nuanced narratives. And then a bit more about diversity in general. And it's kind of going into the different demographic groups as well, which is really good. Then it goes into the various nuances as well. So this is a classic story. As you scroll down, you get more deeper into the story, and it's driven by data. And I think it leaves you wanting to take action at the end of it. That's probably the intent of this viz. Ends on, perhaps one day soon I will see someone who looks like me win Australia's most prestigious art prize. And that's really the point. The point is less about the establishment, and it's more about for there to be interest and for there to be for people to be inspired, they have to see someone like them winning those things. So this viz sort of just goes into that. Really, really cool. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing all of these competitors sort of go head to head for Iron Viz. I've been a judge for Iron Viz in the prelim stages in the past, so I think it'll be really nice. I didn't do it this year, so it'd be really nice to see what data set they get, how they're gonna sort of engage with it, and yeah, I'm really hoping we are sort of treated for a show as well, because it's easily one of the best places to go and learn something new about Tableau. Watching people build something really quickly in 30 minutes, which just brings out so many of these speed hacks that you have to sort of get used to sometimes, and sometimes you don't even know they exist. So I really like watching it for that reason. I'll be if I go to YouTube, I'll be doing a live stream. So I'll be doing a live stream with Andre for Iron Viz and the keynote itself, so be sure to check that out, and yeah, join us again. Hopefully you've enjoyed this little test live stream that we've done. I don't know how many people watched. I'm using a service called restream.io to kind of check that everyone is everyone can watch in the various places, but I think it's worked really well. I hope it's worked really well. I haven't had comments to say it hasn't worked, so I'm really glad that this is going well. Just checking the comments, wondering if that's small multiples or 20 separate visits. Oh, okay. So Faustin, I 100% guarantee that is it's actually small multiples with maps, because the only way layers could work across all of them is if it was one chart. Layers can't work across multiple visits. The image of the artist looked misaligned within each of the donuts. Okay, so now you're making me go back to the Viz gallery. Okay, here we go. So are you talking about this one? Oh no, I think you're talking about a previous one. God, I can't even remember which one we were talking about. So not this one. Go back in here. I think you're talking about this one. Yeah, here we go. You might be right, actually. Did it ever load? Yes, it did load. Wow, that took a long time to load. I'm glad I even remembered to come back to this. So here we go. To work like an artist. Here we go. I think your point about misalignment, this could be like a trick. So let's see if I can zoom in. Can I zoom into this? Yeah, I can. So when I zoom in, you can see that, for example, here, spacing gets messed up. But if I zoom out, oh no, you're right. Some of them are misaligned. It might be to do with Tableau Public, because Tableau Public does mess around with positioning. So And actually, it's this should be a feature, shouldn't it? It should be possible to align things to a grid. It's technically possible, but it's not possible. So I'll leave that for another day. So yeah, really, really good point there. But you can kind of get the gist of what the person's trying to do here. I think sometimes when you look at these things, you have to remember that people are trying, to do these in their own free time. So I'm not sort of overly critical about things that sort of take a short amount of time to fix, unless they're going for iron viz, in which case I can be panicky and say, well, look, you could have spent a little bit longer just aligning these things. But if I was to just, let's just draw a square, because I know the square is straight, you can kind of see here that at least the images are all aligned to each other. Those two are, yeah, the bottom one isn't. And so I think that's probably what's going on. The images are aligned to each other, but you couldn't quite get the charts and the spacing between the charts to perfectly line up. That can be really, really hard to do. I can understand why someone would get frustrated and give up doing that as well. So, yeah, really cool. Okay, that's been it. Maybe the background images are all one background images. Potentially. Now you're making me have to sign in. So let me do this. Let me take this off screen. Sign in, so you don't see my password. Here we go. And then go back in. And then we are going to be able to... oh no, it's going to take a while to load again. Oh no. Here you go, make a copy. Maybe I don't have to wait for it to load. Let's just get this. I really want to check this, make sure that it's... I think if it took a while to load, the viz is going to take even longer to load the editing experience. Let's just wait for this to load. Nope. Okay. I'm probably going to download this and have a look. I'm not going to do that now because I'm on my Mac and it loads right as I'm about to give up. Okay, cool. So let's go into the viz itself. And if we look at the viz, it doesn't look like, yeah, you're right. It might actually just be one image, and that's why they're not lined up. So they weren't lined up correctly in the layout tool that they used. So one of the things you can do in Tableau Public is just disable images and then just go see what it looks like. So what I'm trying to understand here is this floating? Yeah, it's floated. There you go. So this is all floated. I've just moved it off, and then yeah, that is one image. So could be easily aligned. Could be easily aligned. Just needs a little bit more setup. What is interesting about that is I feel like sometimes I feel cheated when I find out that something like this is actually mostly an image. So if you just move that off, if I actually, let's undo a few steps. And this is not, I'm not sort of making a judgment on this viz at all. I'm just sort of highlighting sometimes a disappointment that I sometimes have when you open a viz and something that could be done in Tableau isn't done in Tableau. But likewise, something you've done outside of Tableau kind of gets limited because in Tableau you can only work with a certain set of sort of features. So for example, the only way to do this is to add an image. They couldn't, for example, have gone and created like a vector image that then scales nicely. This will always look not so great because it's an image, therefore it won't always be sharp. So if I move that and then get rid of the image and then go back and move this back up, you can see that it's just basically a small multiples chart. Here we go. Let's just line that up like that. Yeah, I think that's about right. Small multiple charts, and then the image behind was sort of speaking on behalf of the legend. So yeah, super interesting, super interesting. Okay, good to sort of dive into that. Yeah, catch me and Andre on the live stream tomorrow. We'll be on a little bit earlier. We'll be on from 4:45. I think the live stream starts at 5 o'clock. We might be on earlier than that, actually, 4:30 probably. But I said 4:45 because I just want to make sure we set up properly beforehand. So yeah, that'd be great. If you've joined across lots of different places, YouTube, um, wherever you've joined from, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Twitter, any of those, Facebook, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I think it's been a really good session. Love from India. Someone's asking a question in the comments: how to remove hierarchy from a sheet taking a month and year. That's a super specific thing. What I always say with these kind of comments is, look, I can't help everyone that reaches out all the time. So what I always encourage you to do is to either find a video where I've already talked about that, or Nitish, you can head into Discord and ask me there, where there's a little bit more scope to sort of talk to me, and we can have a look at some screenshots and stuff like that. Or you can head to, if you go to any of my videos, let's say you go to this one about installing Tableau Server. If you go down to my description at the end, you can always see this link to share feedback and suggestions. And if you go in there, you can drop some feedback in here. And in here, I actually do go back in and respond to people. So if I take this dual axis one, for example, we can share screenshots. I can actually help out. And most of the time, it's actually quite an easy thing to solve, and we can actually figure it out. But then I also get valuable feedback about videos that I can make in the future to better clarify that point. And then that helps everyone. So that's how I encourage everyone to share feedback. I try and get to these as quickly as I possibly can. And then what happens is, once they've sort of been answered here, I send them into the roadmap, and once they're in the roadmap, the videos get made. So that's basically the pipeline, and that, I think, is a better way of helping absolutely everyone, rather than just sort of going into YouTube comments, because YouTube comments is not a great space for that kind of stuff. So yeah, just please try and do that. If you spend the time doing that, I promise you I will reach back out to you, and we'll get that going. So yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. Faustin, thank you for staying for the whole stream. Really appreciate it. And I'm glad you enjoyed the Viz Gallery tour. I really didn't finish the Viz Gallery tour. I really need to. I need to do it more justice. I covered 1.5 rooms, and there's 4 rooms. So I really do have to, I think, come back. We'll have to finish. How many other visits we've got? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've got 9 vises, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 vises to go. And we've done probably, I'm not going to count them, probably done 10. So we'll come back and finish that at some point this week during Tableau conference. That's probably the best time to do it. We'll just stream across everything, and we'll get that done. So yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And I'll catch you tomorrow in the next live stream. Thanks for watching, and yeah, take it easy.